little fox.
Cinderella, Episode 1, A Kind Girl. Once upon a time, there was a very kind girl. Her name was Ella. She lived happily with her father. Ella had fine clothes and jewelry. She had a big room with a warm, cozy bed. And there was always plenty of food. One day, Ella and her father were walking in town. Wonderful smells came from the bakery.
Let's get a treat,
Father said. Ella saw a young beggar sitting in the town square. That poor boy, Ella said. Father, can we please get something for him? Father smiled warmly.
You are very kind, Ella.
Father bought some bread. Ella gave it to the boy.
Thank you, miss,
The boy said. A few days later, Ella saw Father in the garden. You look happy, Father, she said. Father laughed.
I have exciting news. I met a lovely lady.
Father said.
We're going to get married.
Ella gasped. Father, I'm so happy for you! A week later, Father got married. Ella's new stepmother had 2 daughters. The older daughter was tall and thin. The younger one was short and plump. It's nice to meet you, Ella said. The 2 daughters smiled. So did their mother. But there was a nasty look in her eyes. Cinderella, Episode 2, Sad News. Ella's father was on a hunting trip. One morning, stepmother woke Ella.
Get up, lazy girl,
She snapped.
I have some news. Your father is dead.
Ella gasped. Tears filled her eyes. Oh no! She cried in pain. Father! My poor father! After that, nothing was the same. Ella was still kind and polite, but stepmother was now mean. Stepmother gave fancy dresses to her daughters. Ella wore ugly old rags. The stepsisters slept in soft feather beds. Ella slept on a hard bed made of straw. Gert napped all day long. Trudy ate all day long. But stepmother made Ella work. she scrubbed, swept, and mopped.
Pretty little Ella,
Stepmother said.
you think you're better than we are. You think you're prettier, too.
No, I don't, Ella said. You're my family now. I love all of you.
Ugh,
Stepmother sneered.
you're too nice. Go and make my lunch. And tend the fire again. I don't want my daughters to catch a cold.
Ella liked to sit near the fire. She remembered her days with Father. I miss him so much, she thought. The stepsisters saw Ella by the fire. Trudy giggled.
You're covered in ashes.
Ella likes ashes and cinders.
Gert said.
Let's call her Cinderella.
Cinderella, Episode 3, A Royal Message. The next morning, a trumpet blew loudly.
A royal messenger!
Stepmother cried. Stepmother and her daughters ran outside. Cinderella wiped her hands on her apron. Then she followed them. I wonder what the message is, she thought. A big crowd was outside. The royal messenger sat on a horse. He held a long piece of paper.
Ahem!
The messenger said.
This is a very important message. The prince is hosting a ball. All fine ladies in the kingdom are invited.
Several ladies said at once. Cinderella's stepsisters clapped with delight.
We're going to the prince's ball.
Gert cried. Trudy's eyes lit up.
This is so exciting!
She said.
Maybe the prince will ask me to marry him.
Gert snorted.
No way, Trudy. The prince will fall in love with me. I'm beautiful and tall.
Trudy put her hands on her hips.
Well, I'm beautiful and plump. Girls, girls,
Stepmother said.
you're both beautiful.
A ball, Cinderella said softly. There will be music and dancing. It will be so much fun.
Cinderella,
Stepmother laughed loudly.
you're not going to the ball. You are not a fine lady.
Cinderella, Episode 4, Getting Ready for the Ball. The stepsisters kept talking about the ball.
I will wear my favorite jewels.
Gert said.
I'm going to dance with the prince.
Trudy said.
Humph!
Gert said.
The prince won't dance with you. He'll be too busy dancing with me.
Girls, girls,
Stepmother said.
the prince will dance with both of you. How do you know?
Trudy asked. Stepmother had a wicked grin.
The prince is looking for a wife, so he will dance with all the ladies.
Trudy and Gert clapped with delight.
You both must impress him.
Stepmother said.
Then he'll want to marry one of you. And I can move to the palace. Ha 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 ha!
Later, stepmother found Cinderella.
You must make pretty gowns for my daughters. Everything must be perfect.
Cinderella made 2 beautiful gowns. The stepsisters put them on.
I look lovely,
Trudy said.
I look lovely too.
Gert said. Trudy looked at Cinderella.
Poor Cinderella.
She whispered.
You will miss the ball.
Stepmother spun around.
Hush, Trudy! Cinderella has work to do.
She yelled.
She will stay home and scrub floors.
At last, it was the night of the ball.
Goodbye, Cinderella.
The stepsisters called. Tears slipped from Cinderella's eyes. She began to sob. Cinderella, Episode 5, A Visitor. Cinderella felt awful. Her stepsisters were at the fancy ball. But she was home alone. I wish I could go to the ball. Cinderella wiped away her tears. I must not feel sorry for myself, she said. I have lots of work to do. Cinderella got a rag and a bucket. She got down on her hands and knees, and she began to scrub. Cinderella heard something. What was that? She thought. She went outside. There was a small woman at the fountain. She had sparkling wings.
Oops,
She said.
I'm all wet.
Cinderella gasped. Who are you?
I'm your fairy godmother.
The woman said. She stood up and flapped her wings. The fairy flew over to Cinderella.
I'm here to check on you.
She said.
I wanted to make sure you're okay.
Cinderella stared in surprise. Suddenly, she burst into tears.
My dear,
The fairy said.
what's wrong? Tell me.
I'm not okay, Cinderella said. My life is terrible. I work and work and work, and tonight...
You want to go to the ball.
The fairy said. Cinderella sniffed. Yes, but... The fairy smiled brightly.
Then you will go.
Cinderella, Episode 6, A Wish Comes True. Cinderella stared at her fairy godmother. Really? I can go to the ball? Godmother nodded.
Yes. Run to the garden and bring me a pumpkin.
A pumpkin? Cinderella went to the garden. She found a nice pumpkin and ran back. Here! Cinderella set the pumpkin in front of Godmother. Godmother tapped it with her wand. Zap! The pumpkin was now a golden coach.
Next, we need some horses.
Godmother said. I'll find some mice, Cinderella said. Godmother counted.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Zap! The mice turned into a team of horses. Godmother looked around.
Who will drive the golden coach?
There are rats in the cellar, Cinderella said.
Perfect!
Godmother replied.
Bring me one.
Zap! Soon a jolly driver with whiskers stood there. Zap! Zap! 2 lizards became handsome servants. Godmother smiled.
Your coach is ready, my dear.
But Cinderella pointed at her clothes. The fairy touched her lightly with the wand. Zap! Cinderella's ugly rags were gone. Now she wore a beautiful gown with sparkling jewels. And on her feet, Cinderella wore the prettiest glass shoes in the world. She climbed into the coach. Goodbye, Godmother! I'm off to the ball! Cinderella. Episode 7, The Princess Arrives. The golden coach started down the road.
Wait!
Godmother called. The coach stopped. Cinderella looked back. What is it?
You must obey one rule tonight.
Godmother said.
You must leave the ball by midnight, or...
Yes? Cinderella asked.
Poof!
Godmother said.
Your golden coach will disappear. Your clothes will turn back into rags.
Cinderella nodded. I promise, Godmother. I will leave the ball by midnight. The horses took off again. Thank you, Cinderella called. At the ball, the prince danced with many fine ladies. One fine lady talked too much. One fine lady danced too fast. One fine lady stepped on his toes.
This is boring,
The prince thought. He went outside and sighed. There were many fine ladies at the ball, but he didn't want to marry any of them. Just then, the prince spotted something. A golden coach was coming.
Who's that?
He said.
It looks like a beautiful princess.
The golden coach arrived at the palace. Cinderella saw a handsome young man. The prince, she whispered. The prince rushed down the steps.
Hello.
He said softly. He bowed and took Cinderella's hand. The prince and Cinderella entered the ballroom. Everyone hushed.
Who is that?
They whispered.
Who is that beautiful princess?
Cinderella, Episode 8, The Ball. Cinderella danced with the prince. The king and queen watched them.
What a beautiful princess!
They said. The fine ladies stared too.
Who made the princess's gown?
They asked.
I want one. Me too.
Then Cinderella sat down with the prince. Servants brought out trays of food. The prince didn't eat a thing. He just stared at Cinderella. Cinderella spotted her stepsisters. She smiled at the prince. "I'll be right back." Cinderella brought some treats to her stepsisters. They thanked her and each gave a curtsy. Cinderella giggled quietly. They thought she was a real princess. The prince and Cinderella began to dance again. Before midnight, Cinderella stopped. "I must go," she said.
Oh,
The prince said sadly.
I'm having another ball tomorrow. Will you come?
"I will try," Cinderella said. At home, Godmother was waiting by the fire. "Oh, Godmother," Cinderella said. "I had a wonderful time at the ball. The prince is so handsome." Soon, Cinderella's stepsisters came home. Cinderella yawned and stretched. She acted sleepy. "How was the ball?" she asked. Trudy frowned.
It was terrible.
Some dumb princess showed up.
Gert said.
After that, the prince ignored us.
Cinderella fell asleep with a smile. Cinderella, Episode 9, Singing Softly. The next morning, Cinderella started her chores. Stepmother barked orders at her. But it didn't bother Cinderella today. Last night was lovely, she thought. I wish every night was that wonderful. Cinderella hummed as she swept the floor.
Quiet down!
Stepmother snapped.
You're giving me a headache.
Yes, stepmother, Cinderella said. Cinderella worked quietly, but in her head, she was still singing. Stepmother stomped around the room.
Why did that princess appear at the ball last night? She ruined everything.
Trudy said.
The prince never noticed me.
The prince didn't notice me either.
Gert said.
I must wear more jewels tonight.
Stepmother frowned.
Tonight you both must look your best.
Trudy and Gert spent all afternoon getting ready. Finally, they left for the ball. Cinderella felt sad. Then Godmother appeared.
Ready to go to another ball, Cinderella?
Yes! Cinderella cried. Her godmother waved her wand. Zap! Once again, Cinderella wore the glass shoes. But tonight she had a different gown. All night long, Cinderella danced with the prince.
You look even more beautiful tonight.
He said. Cinderella closed her eyes. I never want to leave, she whispered. Bong, bong, bong. Just then, the clock struck. 12 o'clock. Cinderella, Episode 10, Midnight. Cinderella dropped the prince's hand. She ran outside as the clock struck 12.
Wait!
The prince shouted.
Don't go!
Cinderella started down the steps. One of her glass shoes fell off. Cinderella looked back, but it was too late to get the shoe. Her golden coach was already a pumpkin. Her beautiful gown was an ugly old rag again. The prince ran down the steps.
Where is the princess?
He cried. He ran past Cinderella. Cinderella's heart sank. He didn't know that she was the princess. Slowly, she began to walk home. The prince went back up the steps. Near the top step, something sparkled. The prince said. He picked it up.
What's this?
Cinderella got home. She was tired and cold. She added a log to the fire. Later, the stepsisters came home. How was the ball? Cinderella asked. Was the beautiful princess there again?
Yes.
Gert made a face.
She left at midnight. But the prince kept talking about her. He even found something of hers.
Cinderella leaned forward. What did he find?
A glass shoe,
Trudy said.
It's really pretty. Cinderella,
Stepmother snapped.
get our beds ready.
Cinderella, Episode 11, The Glass Shoe. In the morning, Cinderella listened to the stepsisters. They were still talking about the prince.
He's in love with that princess,
Trudy said.
He's going to look for her,
Gert said.
It was terrible.
Cinderella brushed away some tears. The prince will never find me, she thought. Later, the king's messenger came to town. He blew his trumpet. Stepmother and the stepsisters ran outside. Cinderella followed them.
Hear this, ladies!
The messenger said.
The prince found a glass shoe. Every fine lady must try it on. The prince will marry whoever it fits.
Gert grinned.
Maybe the shoe will fit me.
Or me.
Trudy said. Stepmother glared at them.
It will fit one of you.
The messenger visited every home in town. Every lady tried on the glass shoe. But it didn't fit anyone. At last, the messenger reached Cinderella's house. Cinderella was sweeping. First, Gert sat down. She tried to push her foot into the shoe, but it didn't fit.
Get up, Gert.
Stepmother said.
Now it's Trudy's turn.
Trudy tried to push her foot into the shoe.
It doesn't fit,
she said sadly. Cinderella dropped her broom. What about me? She asked. May I try on the shoe? Cinderella, Episode 12, Happily Ever After. Stepmother laughed at Cinderella.
You?
She said.
It can't be your shoe. You did not go to the balls.
The messenger looked at Cinderella. She was dressed in rags, but the messenger had orders from the prince. Every lady must try on the shoe. Cinderella took a deep breath. Slowly, she slid her foot into the glass shoe. Her stepsisters gasped.
It fits?
The messenger blinked.
It's you!
He cried.
You are the princess!
Stepmother stomped over to Cinderella.
Impossible.
She snapped.
You never left this house.
Cinderella reached into her pocket. She took out the other shoe and put it on. Suddenly, her fairy godmother appeared. Godmother waved her wand. Poof! Cinderella was the beautiful princess again. Gert and Trudy each gave a curtsy.
We are very sorry.
They said. Stepmother folded her arms. The messenger was smiling.
You must come with me. The prince will be so happy.
Soon, Cinderella was back at the palace. Three days later, she married the handsome prince. Cinderella was really a princess now. But she was still very kind. So Cinderella invited her stepsisters to live with her. She even invited stepmother. And they all lived happily ever after.
Little Fox.